Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard. Sitting across from me is the beautiful, talented, Emmy-nominated Monica Pladman.
That's me.
You're here.
I'm here. I'm in Halloween outfit. Oh, it's Halloween today, even though it's not Halloween today.
We always celebrate Halloween 5 days after Halloween as a policy.
Yeah.
So that the streets aren't crowded and we don't have to wait in lines when we knock at the doors.
That's right.
We have a very tasty episode today.
We do.
I didn't know if we would talk about the fact that we had been in a relationship. I thought maybe we'd blow right past that. But good old Oliver, he immediately forced us to confront it.
Well, you were going to, let's be honest.
We weren't going to pretend we didn't date it.
Yeah.
Dated. We weren't going to pretended we didn't dated it. But Oliver really forced the issue in a very funny way. So today, Kate and Oliver Hudson, brother and sister, are here. They have a new podcast called Sibling Revelry. And that is out today. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. I think you know both Kate and Oliver. Kate is an Academy Award-nominated actress, an author, a fashion designer. Oliver's been on a bunch of shows, Rules of Engagement, Splitting Up Together, Nashville, Scream Queens. They're the progeny of a very famous woman, Goldie Hawn. They're infinitely interesting and fun, and I love them and have been friends with both of them and dated one of them for quite a while. So please enjoy Kate and Oliver Hudson.
He's an armchair expert.
Are you covering your chewing for people with misophonia?
I'm just.
What is that ASMR shit, right?
Well, that's the opposite
that's
of
people
misophonia.
who
Oh, it
like
is.
it.
Yeah, that's-
Misophonia is people who hate it.
By the way, my kids are into the ASMR stuff. They're watching on YouTube, and it's like, I'm like, this is disgusting. Some dude
I love
eating
it.
spaghetti.
I'm into it.
You like, yes, for certain people, I guess it induces euphoria. In
Wait,
euphoric,
Dax, have you ever interviewed an ex-girlfriend?
I interviewed a gal I had hooked up with, Andrea,
Oh, yeah.
but not dated. Yeah.
I've never been interviewed by an ex-boyfriend.
Oh, you
This will
haven't?
be so fun.
No, it's been fun.
Well, again, I don't want to trigger any old memories and be controlling, but you will need that microphone quite a bit closer to your face. Oh, how quickly we fall into our old patterns.
It's strangely erotic.
Yeah.
Like, Dad,
Thank
look
you.
at this guy or this girl, eating spaghetti. And I'm like, okay, I got to go because it's weirdly
uncomfortable.
erotic. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I feel that way about those unwrapping videos as well. There's something so perverse going on. The way they delicately and systematically take things
Yeah.
out in the presentation.
But let me ask you a question, though, because there
I'm,
is
like, not-
something that triggers in the brain
Yeah.
to make it as sensational as it has been.
Sure.
What
Yeah.
is that? Why do we want to watch these things?
I think it's intimacy. I think it's you don't normally get to be a part of people's like eating spaghetti.
I have an answer.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
let's hear it.
Not even an opinion, a straight answer.
Kate Hudson.
It actually stimulates the pleasure center of our brain. So like when you hear sound at a certain, it's like any kind of tone or harmony or anything that it directly hits the pleasure center.
Interesting.
Okay, so that would explain the ASMR. I think that the unwrapping thing is who among us hasn't enjoyed unwrapping a present? So your mirror neurons are triggering as you watch this person unwrap a present, and you go straight back to the last present you unwrapped.
Yeah.
For me, it's been a while.
But it's not sensual when you're
Yeah.
unwrapping a present.
It depends what the gift is, though, doesn't
Well, that is true.
it? If it's from a lover,
No.
and you
Then
know
it could
it's
be
going
very
to be
sensual.
thoughtful.
You know what I got my mother-in-law? They spent the first Christmas with us.
Because you guys have been together, what, 16 years or something?
18 total.
Crazy.
Yeah, married 13.
Okay.
And they're amazing. I couldn't
just-
have asked for better in-laws. I got her a 12-inch dildo.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and
In
I
front
knew
of the entire-
in front
all
of the
the
whole
kids.
family,
Like,
in front of the
Oliver.
whole family, and she opened it up, and it was a joyous occasion to watch.
It was
her
deeply
face.
funny.
And especially my father-in-law Brooks, who lost his mind. It was.
Could you describe,
that's
like,
great.
in what fashion did he lose his mind?
Oh, he was laughing his ass off. No,
He
they-
was actually laughing harder than she was.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
she was a
beginning.
bit stunned.
She didn't know. she didn't quite. She had to like internalize it for a second of like, what is this? What is
What's happened here?
What's happening?
But you know what?
And Brooke started to laugh so hard, and then she lost it. And
But the great thing about Anne, my mother-in-law, is that she then proceeded to create an elf on the shelf for the dildo. So the dildo then became, it was hiding around the house for all of Christmas. She created an adult elf on the shelf.
Let's just right out of the gates go.
Yeah.
Some people will go like, well, why are there two people on the show? And they're siblings, Oliver and Kate. And it's because you guys have a podcast that you're doing, a brother and sister podcast.
Yes.
Is the theme overall like siblings, or it can go anywhere?
It kind of goes anywhere. I mean, we mostly are interviewing siblings, but then we're sort of tackling subjects that we're interested in or that we might disagree, certain things that we might have disagreements about, trying to talk about. You grow up with the same family, you grow up with the same circumstances, but then how do you become such different people?
It is curious. Well, the one thing I immediately thought of when I thought of you guys doing this is you have an added layer. Like I talk about my mom on here a lot, but she's given me her blessing. And then my dad is dead, so there's really no issue there. But you guys have the added layer of like both parents are newsworthy. If you say your dad kicked your ass, that's going to be a headline.
Yeah, that's why there's good, editing and,
Yeah.
because we honestly try not to filter anything. We will say whatever we want to say or have to say or feel like we need to say. And then, there are certain instances, I think, where, you have to protect your
Mom and
family.
dad.
Well, I also think that it's also there's being honest, and then there's like laying out your
Exposing.
dirty laundry,
Right.
which to me I'm not a fan of anyway. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of like, oh, let's start shit slinging everywhere for the sake of an interesting conversation. Like I think we protect our privacy, but at the same time we're very truthful about our experiences growing up.
Yeah, because when I knew you guys were coming in here right away, I have like 3 stories that I know, and I'm like, oh my god, these stories must be told. But I don't. I often get in a weird situation where I'm really good friends with someone I interview, and I'm like, I know so much about you.
I know.
What stuff are we cool with bringing into the light, and what aren't we? But of course, there's like 3 stories that I've found myself telling, primarily about Kurt, of course, because what a story generator
Oh my
he
God,
is.
like in Muskoka.
Well, the good thing is Kurt still doesn't know how to use the internet.
Oh, wonderful.
So there is really no shot of him listening to this. I have been an actor for 20 years. I think he's maybe seen 2 things that I've done.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he will be tuning in.
Pa once said the only time he ever knows of a new guy that I'm dating is when there's a TMZ guy following him around. And he's like, oh, I don't know anything about this.
And your dad has a couple really funny theories, because he told me that had he not been married to your mom, he would have skated through life completely anonymous. Like that's his actual theory,
Which is
that
crazy.
He only gets
Yeah.
recognized because he's with Goldie.
Right, no, he
Right.
doesn't. It's like this weird, like strange lack of self-awareness that he's not like this mega movie star that has accomplished so much and is a fucking badass in his own right.
But there is a flip side, because then Kurt sometimes gets hot and he goes, I'm fucking Kurt Russell.
Oh, good.
I mean, he does have that side of him as well. So I think he uses one or the other to his advantage, when he needs to use it.
when the situation calls
Exactly.
for it. Well, I've said since our torrid breakup that
Who broke up with who? For real, I don't remember.
well, I don't know. I think we just parted
it was
ways.
just sort of a mutual-esque, and we were in different places in our life.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
For sure. First of all, very, very fun. Very memorable,
A blast.
wonderful, fun experience. Number 2, when thinking about like, well, this may come up, what is my summation of it? And I guess I decided I'll really only take responsibility for my stuff. That's really all I decided I can do.
Sure.
Yeah.
What else can you
That's
do?
all
me as
anyone
well.
can do.
Right.
Yeah. So my things probably that were very hard for me was I felt very less than around you quite often.
Oh God.
I think we all do.
Especially Kurt. They only follow him if she's got a new boyfriend. Yeah, I think I was just in the point where I was not going to get hired for movies anymore. I had a bunch that didn't work. And I'm like, I don't fucking know what's next. And you were at that time making the most you ever made and having the most opportunity. And I felt very much like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm following this person around as they do things I wish I were doing. It was just a rough period for me anyways. And then I felt all kinds of inadequacy in that position.
How much do I love Dax?
I know. Well, the honesty.
You know, you said something really interesting when we were dating, and you were right, which is like, and it's funny, I just brought this up with Danny because I did something that I recalled.
Danny's
Dax.
her boyfriend, by the way.
Danny's, yeah. And I did something and I went, oh my God, because Dax used to say it drove him nuts, is I'd always say, what? But I heard him. And he's like, I know you heard me. I know you heard me, but you're asking me to repeat myself again. And I'd be like, well, no, I actually don't know what you said. But then I was like, no, I do know what he just said. I don't know why and I did it the other day with Danny. And I went, And I was like, oh my God, Dax. And I looked at Danny and Danny just repeated, I go, honey, do I do that a lot? He's like, oh yeah, you do it all the time. And I was like, why don't you ever tell me that I do that? And he goes, because it doesn't bother me.
There we go.
And I thought, that's really interesting because, and then I told him a story how it used to
About
drive you
Chris?
crazy.
Oh, I went
And-
straight to when we were breaking up and you talked to Chris and you kind of gave him my complaints about the relationship. And Chris goes, it just sounds to me like he doesn't like your personality.
Well, I felt like
I did like your personality a
we
lot.
did like each other's
Yeah.
personality. But you also said that you really wanted like a we in your life and that you felt that it was just about me.
Well, I did. I felt like I hooked my caboose to like a speeding locomotive, which, by the way,
You were right,
circumstance called for. You had a child. I
Yes.
didn't. So that makes me infinitely more flexible. Now that I have children, I see the whole thing through a different lens. And yeah, you had money-making opportunities that you could not take. There was just a lot going on. It was like the apex of busyness and
It was timing.
yeah. But
Just timing.
I
want to get this
And
straight
also the
here.
personality issue, clearly.
Just
No, because
timing.
our personalities are super compatible.
It seems
we
like it,
laughed
yes.
our asses off.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I think
It started as a
relationships-
joke.
It literally,
It literally
started
started
as a
as
joke.
a-
Wait, we need to hear that
Okay,
part.
let's go through the whole timeline. You
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
had our first conversation in the backyard of Toby Maguire's house.
Oh, yes.
We were looking out over the city. The house was so nice.
Yes.
We both recognized that we didn't have houses that
Yes.
nice. And we started talking, and within the first 5 sentences of us meeting each other, we told each other how much we had in the bank.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I remember this.
wow.
That's fucking right. I remember this.
So not surprised that was what happened with
And I
you.
So
was like,
typical.
I
I
know,
was like,
right?
oh, this is a real dude. Like, this is a dude from Michigan. Where not everyone's not crazy weird about money.
Right.
Like, hey,
Right.
yeah, like I'm kind of doing okay, I guess. I can't buy this house. What are you doing? And I think
much
you
money
had
do
like
you have?
70 grand in the bank, and I'm like, I think that's exactly what I have in the bank. And it was just a fast pass to becoming
That's
buddies.
funny. But it's interesting. I'm still like that in that I don't know why people get so uptight
Yeah.
about money and talking about money or how much they make. When I'm doing TV shows, I'm asking all the cast, like, how much you make? And they're like,
Are we getting paid?
I'm like, that's cool. I make this much. And they're like, okay.
Well, I can say that when I did Parenthood, I made myself a mental promise I would not find out what anyone else made.
Right.
Because I was like, I think I should probably be making a little bit more, but it's plenty of money to go say lines in front of a camera.
Right.
If I find out my child, this is his first acting job, is making twice as much as me, it might ruin the experience.
Right.
So I don't want to know. And it turned out I was much happier never knowing what anyone made.
Yes.
So I also see that with coworkers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, I would say you and I kind of felt
We did.
hard, and we started
did.
playing poker a
Yeah,
lot together.
yeah.
But I'm trying to remember who the first person that like mentioned Dax. Was it you?
To you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
In
said-
my memory, you guys were just all of a sudden started dating. And
Well, I have the perfect memory
Okay.
because there was a huge status imbalance. So I remember every detail of it. So we had played poker 3 dozen times. So one night you were there.
Oh, the
Kate.
poker.
You came to poker.
Yes,
And I gave you the platinum package. I gave you 130% of everything I had to give.
Right.
I don't know if I won any hands that night. I wasn't paying attention. I was like the almost famous girl's here.
Yeah.
She's cute. And here's my light on the brightest setting. And you were laughing a lot. I don't know whether you like me or not,
make
but
me laugh.
you were laughing a lot. And then you invited Bree and I to your Christmas party. Based on that poker experience. So we went to your Christmas party. You were still married to Chris.
Yes, I remember.
And then at the party, again, just like outgoing flirtiness, you were married. I was in love with Bree.
Yeah, we were in a totally different place.
I wasn't plotting anything, but I certainly wanted your approval. And if I thought you thought I was cute, all the better. So I, again, gave you probably about 97% there. Then about a year went by, or maybe, I don't really know. Oh,
Yeah.
No,
longer.
well, that was a Christmas
About
party.
2
so
years.
Was it? I don't think it
Yeah,
was that long.
because I started dating someone before I dated you.
Oh, right.
Remember?
Yes, we remember. And we won't say.
No, I remember.
Jack Nicholson.
Right.
So anyways,
The one that got away.
then Brill invited me to go to dinner in Malibu, and you were at the dinner. And at the dinner, there were a bunch of paparazzi outside
Nobu.
who had
It's
followed you because you had just broken up with Jack Nicholson. And while we were there, we said, wouldn't it be funny if we came out holding hands and I was your new boyfriend? We were just
Shirtless.
pals. No, well, then we added, well, wouldn't it be great if her new boyfriend didn't wear a shirt at Nobu? So we did this.
I almost peed in my pants. It was so funny.
We exited Nobu. I was shirtless. We were holding hands. I was acting mad at the paparazzi
Yeah.
that they were invading our privacy. And then that just led to somehow hanging out.
That's great.
Then I wanted to have sex with him.
Right. After that, who wouldn't
It
after
was
a stunt like
it
that?
was like the perfect move.
Wow.
Well, really what happened, there's another thing there, is that I had gone to an amateur bodybuilding contest. You remember this?
Yes. Oh my
In
God.
Culver City. And I had bought a string bikini top, and it said, I'm not on roids, thanks for asking. And then I think the first time I ever came over, I was wearing that tank top.
Unreal.
And who can resist a dude in a tank top that says, no, I'm not on roids, thanks for asking.
How long were you guys actually together?
3 months,
Oh, that's it?
I think so.
Wasn't longer than that.
It feels longer, but it
Feels like already that long.
Couple years. Wow, I didn't realize it
Only
was
Now
we were
here's-
longer than
Yeah.
3 months. No, I thought it was longer. But
I don't know. I think it's 3 months, but I could totally be wrong.
3 months committed.
Well, that's another fun. So the reason that relationship, although ill-fated ultimately, was super beneficial to me was, one, I had never been monogamous. Ever.
That's right.
And
No,
you
that
were
was
like,
like a
hey,
whole-
I know you've got a whole thing that you're into open relationships, but I'm not.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Because
You were Mr.
he was
Open
Mr.
Relationship
Open.
I was
guy.
Mr.
Yeah.
Open.
Wow. Shit is all flooding back to me.
And
right now.
and I was
Dax.
like,
Right.
that would never.
Sure.
That's just not going to work.
That was a.
I was envious.
That was a non-starter.
Sure.
That
Right.
was a non-starter.
Right.
So I was monogamous for the first time in 15 years or something. So that was great. And then 2, I literally learned how to say, when you do this, I'm scared and I feel this way, which Bradley forced me to do, because you and I had fights that I really hadn't had with people.
Yeah, we did. Have
We had
fights.
some big old barn burners.
Wait. What were some of these fights about? I'm curious because I wasn't privy to these fights.
Honestly,
what was
I
what was the
wasn't
rub?
giving Dax what he needed in any, and I was making choices that were not relationship focused.
But again, we were a month in. I don't know
Yeah,
that you should
yeah,
have.
but
Yes.
it was-
So what I
a
hear though
lot
is you're
fast.
taking a lot of
I-
the blame for these fights.
Yeah, no.
Well.
Look, if I was to, I have to say, I was not ready for what Dax
Was selling.
I was out of a relationship that was really hardcore.
Rough.
Then Dax and I, it was so much fun, and then it just got hot fast. It got connective, and I wasn't prepared. I was making a movie. I had writer. I wasn't in a place.
You were 20. Let's say also
I
you were
was
28.
20. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you were
was
28.
like,
And I was 32. So you already had a kid. You had just gotten divorced. I was 32 going, whoever I date next has to be the one. I want to have kids. I want to spend 3 years
Well,
with
then you met
somebody
your
to
wife.
know that I'm going to have kids. And then I want to have kids. So I was definitely in a different place.
I also feel like I had a little bit of that. It must, like, whatever timing and whatever that is. Like, I feel a little bit like I was so backed out that like when he met his now wife, which was not long after we broke up,
No. Yeah.
that it was like gung-ho time for you. I mean, you really, were ready for a real relationship.
Yeah. I was ready to have kids and do it. But so I would call Bradley. I don't even remember what a specific fight would be, but I'd be like, I'm coming back to the city. It's like, aren't you on your way out to Cape Cod or wherever the fuck you were, Boston or something? No, I'm coming back. He's why? She's a fucking bitch. She said blah, 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 right? And he'd go, wow, if she said that to me, I'd feel really kind of like emasculated and I'd feel scared that she wasn't going to. Like he would say all these things that I was incapable of acknowledging that I really did feel. And I was like, oh my God, that is how I feel.
He would translate your anger and your words into psychology.
And how he processes stuff, which I didn't have practice at yet. And so what was genius about it is he didn't go, oh, I bet you feel really scared and emasculated that this and that happened. Because I would have been like, no, I don't.
Right.
He just said he would feel that way. And then through that, I was like, yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to go tell her that. And I'm like, I'm not going to fucking go tell her that. That's like basically, I felt so...
Vulnerable.
I can't use the word vulnerable, but weak. It felt very weak to go, when you say this, I feel really scared, blah, blah. And I did it once. And you were like, I don't think I've ever heard a guy say something like that. And I was like, oh my God, the reaction is positive, that I'm not a wimp, that was strong. So for me, it really like positively confirmed that that's how to do it.
It's not an easy thing though. For men in general to be vulnerable. I've been going through this all my life, and I've had a bit of a breakthrough with this place that I went to. I went to a place called the Hoffman Institute, which was fucking phenomenal for my life. It's basically breaking down in a week. You're there for a week, no phones, nothing. You are off the grid with 40 other people. It's about parental patterns. It's about the adoption of parental patterns, negative love patterns that you have, adopted at the age of an infant unconsciously, and how they've affected your life. And you can go back into generations, basically. And this is part of the reason why your great-great-great-grandfather, there's a similarity between some of the emotional scars that you all have.
Yeah.
And it's about breaking that. I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but I was dealing a lot with vulnerability, and it was a different kind of vulnerability. It was about expressing love. It was about me being able to look at my sister and say, I fucking love you. You're so important to me in my life, and I don't know what I'd do without you. If I felt that, it would hurt me to say it. I would go into a shell. And with Erin, my wife, it's like, she doesn't even know the half of what I'm capable of giving her. And that's what was an amazing thing coming back.
Was your fear that if you say that to somebody and you give them that, that you are now at risk or vulnerable to them now owning you or misusing you, or
100%.
Yeah, and that's all family of origin stuff. I mean, look, we come from we're like the poster children for abandoned children. And then we have this very blessed, privileged life. So you sort of, as you grow older, you kind of tell yourself, like, I'm an asshole if I allow myself to really kind of go there with like, oh, I was abandoned, and I can just pick up my bootstraps and keep going. We don't need to feel traumatized by this. We're lucky kids. And then you get older and you start hitting these roadblocks and you realize, oh, I actually have to feel something that I've never allowed myself to feel based on my circumstance.
Yes.
Well, that's what was interesting about going here, is that I was honestly one of the more healthy people. I mean, you have majorly abused people who are here. You've got
unraveling severe trauma.
Oh, severe trauma. One person had to leave. You also have major addicts and people who have been abandoned in ways that we could never even imagine.
Yeah.
But that didn't take away from what I got out of this experience, because it's an individual experience.
Well, suffering is actually a subjective, the truth that you can look at suffering and you can see it differently. You can try to gauge what that is for an individual, but one person's suffering isn't another person's suffering.
Sure.
It's the same thing with happiness.
But what's nice is
joy.
expressing that suffering collectively in a group of 40 people.
Becomes
The
me.
family that I have gained in this experience has been incredible. The catharsis that we all went through together.
Well, do
don't
you
you
talk
think-
about your sobriety a lot?
Oh, all the whole time.
Right,
yeah.
so you
So this
understand-
podcast is an AA meeting for people who aren't alcoholics. It sucks you have to be a fucking junkie to go have this experience. Like, I kind of want this to be that experience without.
Well,
you know.
it's interesting because sibling revelry, it started as what sort of Kate was talking about, which was our sibling perspective. Once we started interviewing these guests, the psychology that came out.
Perspective is everything.
Oh,
because at the
What? That was sincere. You thought, look how good her radar is. Did you see that?
Well, were you?
I just know.
I think I made a weird movement
Yeah,
towards my
it's
coffee,
his-
and she interpreted it as like me bailing
Uh-huh.
out, but I wasn't.
But
at
his
all.
eyes got bigger too.
Yeah,
Like,
he got
Well, I was
Dax's excited, cute face.
I was compensating because it looked like, oh, I don't want her to think I'm bored drinking coffee, so I made my eyes extra big. Like, I'm still listening, and then it probably just looked insane.
So, perspective. It's like the same thing as like us looking back at relationship. Like you can have one circumstance and two completely different perspectives.
God,
and we,
yeah.
you know, that's what I love about sitting and talking to other siblings is because you'll sit there and you'll talk about one thing that happened. Like there was one person that we interviewed, they're talking about their father. Two completely different perspectives on their
Raised-
father.
raised the same.
The same,
Yeah.
but the perspectives was night and day. And it was so interesting. What one brother got from the father was this sense of like security and safety. And what the other one was the exact opposite.
Yeah. And if you guys had, I'm sure you have, where my brother and I will start talking about something that should be very memorable, like us watching my mom get her ass kicked by my second stepdad. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember sitting on the stairs in the lower level watching. He goes, no, we were at the other apartment. And I'm like, no, we weren't. I can see the carpet. I can, like, he's like, no. And I'm like, that is so fucking dramatic. How on earth are they ever doing, like, police recountings of crimes and all that? Like, just to know he and I were in this most significant event and have entirely different locations.
I think that's why a lot of therapists or psychiatrists, they talk about process versus story and content. Because like people's stories and contents shift and move.
Yeah.
Is why I think like what we're doing right now, and also we're actors, we're storytellers. We love breaking shit down, right?
Sure.
So connecting is everything. But then when you start getting into the story of something, you're not going to connect.
Malcolm Gladwell's new book is about how fallible memory is and how it works, like how you layer on and how it just is a story that, you know, just we're very, very bad at actually memorizing everything that happened and recalling it. It's scary.
Yeah, that's why it's like it's not necessarily about the
details.
The details. For Oliver and I, like we actually had like super traumatizing things. I like don't remember half of the things that we talk about. There's certain moments I remember, and I don't remember if it's in like
in our childhood.
In our childhood, like I don't remember if it was at the beach or if it was in England. Like I don't remember where the fuck we were.
Right.
But I do remember, like, I'll have very sort of visceral moments where I'll see Oliver's face, like, really sad.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is your most traumatic childhood memory?
I mean, there was a lot. I had a lot of,
yeah.
I mean, you know, if I, again, was not to go into story, but to go into feeling, I think one of the most traumatic things growing up for me was me not quite understanding painful experiences, but seeing them through you because you were older and could understand them. So
Like
like
looking to him to see how are we supposed to be
React.
processing
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Not
exactly.
a good example to look to.
No, not
Like,
Which is why I always felt like I had to be your protector, right?
Right,
In a
right.
sense.
Just for the record, you're 3 years older,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
Oliver?
just about 2.
And then also backstory if you're
Yeah.
not all up to date. Y'all's dad, Bill,
Yeah.
left when Kate, you were 18 months old and you were four and a half.
Yeah, four, something.
Right.
like
And then
that.
what age did Kurt come into the picture?
3. I was
I was 6.
6.5.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that just brings everyone up to speed.
Yeah. God, it was a crazy experience for me, having Kurt come into my life, who was such a man.
Oh God,
I mean,
the manliest
such
man.
a man, and I was so not. I mean, I was just a puddle.
You were shy. Well, you weren't necessarily. You were goofy, and you were.
I used humor in my goofiness to sort of cover a lot.
You
of
had
things.
anxiety.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You
You guys, I just looked to my right.
Well, you know what's funny?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to notice
That's been
it.
hanging up since we started.
Would you date Dax?
Oh, I didn't see that.
7
Resounding no.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Yeah, so the childhood trauma, I had my moment that really sort of defined the divorce for me, and that was when my mother was backing out of the house that my parents used to live in, and my dad is running after the car in a rage, and it was in a station wagon much like your own. I mean, for real, it was like that. And mom is screaming, and I'm in the middle of the back seat, and I see my dad running at me with his red face, and it's a steep driveway, and lining the driveway is literally a white picket fence. And she lost control going in reverse and smashed through the white picket fence.
Oh,
That's
wow.
such a
The
wonderful-
allegory.
Yeah, the allegory.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just, I can still see it.
I don't remember any of this.
Oh, it's so gnarly.
In that moment when dad's running at you, are you A, scared, or are you B, going, I've let my dad down, I'm deserting my dad? No,
I was
fear?
Just fear, Interestingly enough, my dad and I, at this point in my life, we have somewhat a semblance of a relationship. Now, we've never had one before. Now, it's mainly over text. Honestly, it's because I made a post. I did a post on Instagram that was my dark sense of humor on Father's Day, and it was an old picture of my sister and I and my dad when times were good.
Yeah.
And
when the white picket fence was standing proudly.
And I said,
Yeah, this was after that, but
no, because we had a good 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
of
Him
visiting, and it was working out, and then all went to shit. But I posted a nice picture, and I said, "Happy Abandonment Day."
Oh, wow.
boy.
That is
Yeah.
funny,
Yeah.
though.
It's
It was
funny
good,
and a little passive.
it was very passive aggressive. I called Oliver. I was like, "What are you
Oh,
doing?"
because what happens is whenever I do something that's outrageous, Kate's the one who catches the heat because
Sure.
she's
Yeah,
super
that's
famous.
true.
So it's like,
I'm always like,
Kate
"What
Hudson.
the fuck?" I'm so out of this.
He went on a talk show and he's like, "They're dead to me." And
Oh,
it was this
boy.
hole in the
Whole
daily.
thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then I wrote him a text. I got his number and wrote him a long text that was very sort of stern and not, apologizing for anything.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of came around, and then we
that's
had
cool.
breakfast. I hadn't seen him in 12 years. We had breakfast.
You look a ton like him.
Oh, it's
That's
creepy.
crazy.
Like I
It's
saw
weird.
a picture of him today when I was reading about you guys, and I was like, "Holy fuck!"
yeah, it's
that
weird.
is- yeah,
it's definitely strange.
I have a different relationship to our father, again, and this is stuff we talk about a lot in our podcast, but like for me, it's like, I don't know. I went through this intensive 3.5 years of like 2 days a week therapy, sometimes 2 hours.
Was this
a
with the
session.
woman that you liked when we were dating?
No,
Okay.
this is this man. He lives in Miami.
For 3 months, you guys, that's a lot of information. You guys know a lot about each
I
other.
think
If it was
must
only
have
3
been
months.
longer. Or we must have known each other.
I'm only tipping the iceberg. I'm playing my cards. Yeah, I'm sitting on ace and I'm acting like I'm king 8 right now.
So for me, my relationship with Bill, it's like through my 3.5 years of therapy, that was like all about, I have to break this pattern that I have that obviously comes out in the relationships that I'm in. And I just was able to forgive him. I realized that a relationship with him is not something that I was interested in having. But I love him. I don't hold any animosity. I really recognize that it was whatever his inability to sort of connect with us was coming from a really painful place. And
No one picks that version of
No.
parenting.
This is the
Yeah.
Hoffman experience that I had with my dad.
Yeah.
And this is why I had a personal catharsis in how I feel about him versus how I felt about him prior.
Yeah.
He had his own challenges, and they were real and they were hard. And I have so much sympathy and forgiveness for them. That being said, I don't have a trustful relationship with him. So I don't choose to continue that pattern.
Yeah.
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 And Oliver is different. You know,
I think being the son too,
I didn't have
Yeah.
a real base or foundation.
Well, you kind of have what I assume I had, which is I have no memory of living with my dad. He left when I was 3. My brother had 8 years with him.
Oh.
So he had this fondness for him and this like inner love for him that it took towards the end of his life that I could get to.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, our dad's father left the house when he was 5 years old, never returned.
Yeah.
Right.
My dad didn't have the tools to become a better or different or more evolved person. I mean, this is what he was dealt, and he wasn't able to sort of draw any other cards. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
It's also, nobody talked about this shit openly.
No.
I mean, generationally, like now all of a sudden the research is in and everybody's sort of like, talking about realizing that the more we talk about it, the better the changes.
I think the whole goal is
easier
like
the
you're
changes
trying to
happen.
understand why you do the things you do. And you have a list of things you don't want to do, and you have a list of things you hope to do more of. And you start wondering, like, why am I doing that thing? You know? That was another crazy breakthrough I had when we were dating is we got in a fight over the phone when you were in Boston, and I had never connected these dots. We got in this fight, we hung up the phone, and I had this like carnal, visceral emotion, like horniness. And I was going to text this girl that I used to hook up with. And I was like starting to text this girl. And for the first time ever, I was like, that's curious. I got uncontrollably horny after having a fight. And I was like, oh, my body takes care of itself. Like, this is a distraction. This is a way I can feel good right now. I feel powerless and I feel little. And this activity I do makes me feel powerful. And holy fuck, my brain's that complicated and outsmarting me.
And
I'm like you.
I think
Sexual
people-
self-soothing. Sex has always been that. you know?
But this is for so many people. They just don't talk about it. I mean, like you obviously coming from AA, those patterns funnel themselves and other things. We talked about that. Like sex. I mean, what a great dose of dopamine to get when you're kind of feeling a little out of control, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
It's a great way to regulate the inside with something from the outside.
One of the things that my therapist did with me, because I would just always find myself in a relationship, whether I wanted it or not, my therapist basically said, done, you're done.
No more
You
relationship.
can't flirt. You can't. I was like, come on. I want to flirt a little bit.
What do they call that? Intriguing?
No flirting, no nothing, no texting. If a guy texts, you don't text back.
Oh, wow.
For a year.
I think you were talking about on Stern, and I was like, I was trying to imagine you, just flowing through life. No flirting.
No flirting.
I
I'm
flirt
so
with
flirtatious.
everybody. I flirt with men. I
Yeah.
flirt with women. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting. And then
What did you find out?
What I found out was it's sort of like, I think how they take people through like the love and sex, where they have to like kind of shut all of that off for a second and sit with the uncomfortable moments. And then about 3 months in, some text started to
Pop up.
and I was like, oh shit, that fuck.
Yeah.
Then I got down. I got depressed. It was uncomfortable. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to like do anything. I had no mojo. I had no sexual feelings. I just kind of went so inside of myself. And I used to say to my therapist, I'm just feeling unattractive. I don't feel, and we would go through why, we would go through, then all of these things in my life started popping up, like changes of perception on certain people in my family, understanding triggers with exes, realizing all the shit that I do, really not being distracted, looking at how I am as a parent and being like, I've failed in some places that I need to like fix, and not making me feel bad. All of a sudden, like everything started refocusing.
It's like an identity shatterer, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
a big component of our identity.
Oh,
To
totally.
be attractive, to get people's approval, to be desired. Like,
Completely.
yeah.
Validation.
then-
Love it.
Female
Oh,
validation.
can't get
And
enough of it.
then,
Me too.
but then I had like what you would say, like the cathartic breakthrough, which ended in a fetal position of feeling something that I'd never released.
Ooh, I want that.
And I remember it was about a good hour of like bawling. I consider myself an intelligent person, but I can't believe I'd never been able to actually feel what I'd known for so long.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're a victim.
And then I was happy, and I was happy with my kids, and I had a routine, and I didn't need a relationship, and I wasn't interested in calling guys back. And then I was allowed to flirt again.
Yeah.
And I realized that I had no real interest in flirting the way that I did. And the guys that were interested in me were not guys that I was necessarily interested in.
Well, that's what's so fucked up is like I have a female friend that's in SLA. And so in this one case, a coworker of her like text her something kind of inappropriate. And I said, look, the real answer is it feels flattering, but the person knows you're married. So what they've assessed is that you have low enough self-esteem that you need the validation even though you're married. I'm like, it's not really a compliment. It's like, I'm a scumbag. I see that you might be a scumbag. Let's connect. Like you attract people that are in a similar state of self-esteem, I think, that you are. So it's like, yeah, if you're in the circus of everyone who's texting and flirting and all this shit, it's just self-perpetuating.
Oh, God.
It also takes a second. For men especially, like up until you're about like 35 into that later 30s, everybody's just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And then when you have kids, if you're the kind of person that wants to get into it and you want the best for your kids, like you make shifts in the way that you are and you start looking at yourself differently so that you can give your kids that opportunity to be able to make those choices as they get older.
Well, back to you being smart. I think you, like myself, are a victim sometimes of being smart because, well, A, there's a saying in AA that you can't be too dumb for AA, but you can be too smart for AA. And I lost a million arguments to you, which was a very foreign feeling to me. Like we would argue and it'd be over email or whatever. And then I got to the point where like I would just throw in the towel, which was totally new for me. And then I could see myself through you where it was like, you won this argument, but I don't feel any better. Like I still feel scared and all these things. So you won, but I still feel like shit. And I was like, oh, all those arguments I won with previous girlfriends, I won them. I didn't address how they were feeling. I didn't make them feel safer. I didn't do any of that stuff. And I just think so many times your gifts can also be your like Achilles.
Well, you were also the first healthy relationship I probably had ever had. Now, Chris, a love of my life.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I mean,
something cosmic.
Something seriously cosmic.
Yeah.
In our life with Ryder, I've been the subject of his hatred. I've been this, but I always am just like, you know what? Love of my
Your
life.
soulmates. Yeah.
Yeah. But I couldn't be with him and it was unhealthy.
Right.
There were unhealthy aspects of our relationship that would never have allowed me to be able to be in that relationship. And then I honestly think you were the first person who had healthy patterns, that you were creating healthy patterns here, the way you journaled, the way you wanted to communicate, what you wanted from the relationship. Like everything that you were doing was going towards a healthy relationship. And I was like...
But have you always been on an evolutionary path? Meaning like you're always constantly evolving and you know that, and it's always about sort of bettering yourself, even if you're taking 10 steps backwards.
I think sobriety was the turning point. Yeah. I don't think like with Brie, I put in the amount of self-reflection that she certainly deserved.
Right.
And we had, maybe like you and Chris, like we just fit in this great way that was very symbiotic and easy. We didn't fight. We didn't do any of those things because it didn't seem like something needed correcting. I wasn't going to go out of my way to correct it. But I think it's all from having to get sober.
I think it's so evolved to have the recognition that someone is my soulmate and I can't be with them.
Yeah.
Like
I
almost no one can do that.
People say like with Chris and I too that it was like, oh, you were so young. And yeah, I was. But like it really, I mean, I just love that man.
Yeah.
But there's just no way. I mean, and I think he probably feels the same way about me.
Well,
just hard
that
to
reminds
get
me
there.
of one of the times I felt inadequate or less than was like you were telling me about y'all's first date and you're like, yeah, we took the Concorde to Paris. And I'm like, well, no shit, you fell in love. I'd fucking fall in love with anyone who took me on the Concorde to Paris. Like, how are you even evaluating this?
But Chris was the first. Chris made me feel unconditionally loved. I'd never felt that way before. I still know he loves me. He was my great teacher as well as Oliver for that in terms of men, of like showing real.
And you and Chris had the most romantic relationship.
Well,
It
they were
was-
back and forth to Paris.
Oh,
They were-
they were no, it really was like that. They were on the road with the Black Crows,
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
biggest bands at the time,
Yeah.
and they're getting clothes like made for themselves, and
Yeah.
then they're in like Paris, like smoking cigarettes, and it's raining
it's
and drinking red
awesome.
wine, and they have a photographer, Darren, who's working with us now, who has just traveled with them everywhere and took photos of them, these beautiful photos. So, I mean, I was with Aaron at the time, and I was like, wow, like,
yeah.
we're cool, but like this,
Yeah.
we need to step it up somehow. Like,
Well, you know what story I sometimes tell? You and Chris, who was the designer's house you went to? This is one of the best stories
Oh,
ever.
Valentino.
This makes me like him so much. Even though I don't think, again, in reflection, now that I have kids, if I saw my daughter on someone's shoulders, I'd go to their house and slit their throat. So I totally, whatever animosity you had towards me, totally warranted, and I get it now.
Oh, right.
I didn't
Oh,
get it.
okay.
Ryder, like,
Yeah, 'cause-
hey, Chris.
Yeah, well,
I was like, wait, what are you talking?
I love this little
yeah.
dude,
Right.
and I love
yeah.
giving him fucking whatever you call that, shoulder rides.
I think you for Ryder was like he was so little. It was like my really big, strong friend. I mean,
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
like.
Oh yeah, I loved him. It was so fun. But yes, it was a big mistake. I shouldn't have ever been out in somewhere where you could get photographed with a kid on you. Anyways, you guys went to whose designer? You got invited.
Valentino.
This you've heard. I've told you this story,
Maybe,
Monica.
yeah.
Oh,
All right,
it's hilarious.
hit us with it really quick. It's so good.
Well, first of all, it was Ben Stiller. He had done this photo shoot with Anna Wintour. It was a Vogue. It was this weird little place. And somehow we're sitting there with Valentino, Anna Wintour, me and Ben. And she says, oh, you must go to Valentino's house. And Ben and I go, oh, okay. And we were excited about it, but it was just as strange.
It's also weird.
It was a little like,
Yeah.
this is a strange grouping, you know? And so we both had to go to our, respective spouses and say, so we're going to Versailles tomorrow for dinner at Valentino's place. And Chris was like, this was not what we were planning on doing in our one night in Paris. I'm like, it'll be great. It's Valentino. We have to go. Cut to, we drive an hour out. We get there. It's a mile-long driveway. It's a perfectly manicured lawn. It's insane. There's literally like 8 men waiting for the cars. It's just me, Chris, and Ben Stiller and Christine. I mean, it's like you couldn't, it was like the hillbillies coming to Versailles. They have white gloves, no joke, and they open the doors and we come out. And Valentino, there's like a moat over his
God bless him.
chateau. And he's got these 2 beautiful nephews with him that are like wearing white linens. And he comes in his smoking jacket and he's like coming over the moat, and hello. And we're like, oh, and all of a sudden all of our voices change. And we're like, oh, hello, Valentino. And he's like, would you like to walk, through the gardens? And we're like, of course.
We always
And
do.
Ben was like, literally no joke, which is one of the greatest moments of all time, was trying to relate. And we are in like, I mean, these gardens have been growing since like the 13th century. I mean, it's like, he's telling this story about, oh my God, there was a red rose in the garden once. And like none of us knew what the fuck he was talking. We're
Yeah.
like, I remember saying to Valentine, like, well, what's wrong with a red rose? He goes, oh God. He goes, there's no red roses in real gardens because it's like, I don't know, it's some kind of, I don't know what it is. Anyway, so we're trying to relate to this. Then Ben starts going, he's like, I'm actually redoing my landscape. Because this is really inspirational on Outpost. His Outpost. Oh, it's so deeply funny. Anyway.
Herb garden.
Oh my God, there's like a deer. There's like a, so now, and then Valentino feeds Ben a blackberry, which was even funnier because Ben hates berries. Yeah, he's like, the berries are so good. Ben, try the berry. And Ben's like, oh no, it was like that moment. And Ben's like, oh. And then the nephew's like, oh, sometimes I come to the garden and I like to bring my guitar, like trying to relate to Chris.
Sure.
Chris goes, yeah, because I'd like to come here, sing the blues, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got a dime. He starts singing this like blues song to this kid. Now we go in, we start eating. It's this table's insane. It's got like sterling silver everything, and there's the serving, but you realize slowly that Valentino, he's funny, and he really took a liking to Chris, and he looked at his jacket and he goes, "What is this?" And he goes, "It's Gucci." He goes, "It's nice." Right? So like he started having this little thing with Valentino. Chris is a dandy, you can tell like he looks like a homeless person, but then when you start looking closer, you realize everything's very placed and really nice,
Yeah.
But then we sit down and it's kind of quiet. It's a little awkward.
There's a lull.
I mean, it's like, okay, it's so formal that we didn't know what to
Are there
do.
like forks clanking?
Yeah, it's a little funny. And
A
Chris,
servant coughs.
Totally.
Chris just sits.
Clink.
And it's I'd say about a good 2 minutes of silence. And Chris goes, "So, Valentino." And he goes, "Yes, Chris." He goes, "I'm glad we could all be here because, look, I need to borrow $5,000.
It's the perfect
number. Amazing number. Amazing.
Very few numbers would have worked as well.
started
Because
to
it
laugh.
could be real.
Anything in the hundreds
Right.
is obviously a joke.
Right.
Anything beyond that, again, is
5,000
preposterous. $5,000 is, yes,
And
just...
Ben started to laugh, and Valentino laughed so hard, and that was it. It was it just.
$5,000.
We had the best night. We had the best dinner. It was so much fun, and it ended up being one of the great stories / moments.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Great.
Some
You've
good
done
jokes.
some cool shit in your life.
I have.
I mean, really cool
I
shit.
saw. I turning 40 was interesting. Everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Like, isn't it weird to be? And I'm like, no, I've done so much in 2 decades. It's like,
But
a lot.
do you find that, so I've got to do a trillion things I shouldn't have ever been able to do, and they were really fun. And then also I feel super grateful to have that rare gift of all that indulgence to go, oh, but I still feel the same way when I look in the mirror. It's not the shit that makes me feel good. It's not the stuff that gives me self-esteem. Because had I not gotten it, I'd still be buying into the fantasy. Like, well, if I just had this amount of money, I'd feel good. If I went to the fucking Patriots game and walked down the field like we did, I'd feel great. I do for an hour.
Well, it's
there's
fun.
there's no foundation under that.
But you've built that.
I like really go there with things. Mom always said, like, I jump in the deep end, like, and that's emotionally, that's in the things that I'm doing, that's in my businesses. Like, I like to go deep. It's sometimes why I think friends don't like hanging out with me, is because they know they have to like go there with me a little bit on like the real things that are happening in life. I can have a blast and go hard over here and have a blast with surface things.
Yeah.
But I'm always wanting to go to that place that's a little bit more.
Yeah, it's probably much different for me because I grew up in Michigan on a dirt road looking at all this, and I had a fantasy of what all this felt like, and it just didn't feel like what I thought it was going to, which is not bad. It's just I feel lucky that I got to find out, oh, those weren't the things that made me like myself.
Well, it's also, I honestly, there is this weird world inside that like people are friends with certain people, and it's
Yeah.
very political, and you have to show up to these things. And it's like, I'm not attached to that in any way. And I think because I grew up here,
yeah,
seeing that
with
like,
all of it.
right. Like to me, that is not a measure of success.
Yeah.
To me, like going off and living in Paris and like having a real experience, or my experiences while I'm shooting something, that's where it is this whole weird political world that we live in Hollywood can feel very empty.
Yeah,
Well,
my shit comes from my family. Like when
I've thought so
leaving LA,
often-
going to Colorado, experiencing the mountains, being away from everything.
But can we back up for 1 second? Because you, by any other measure, have an incredibly enviable career. Like
Yeah.
me in Michigan, looking at Oliver Hudson, who was
Right.
on a TV show for 7 years
Right.
and been in many TV shows.
Yeah.
I want Oliver Hudson's
I
life.
try to remind myself of
It's almost impossible, right? Because
No.
we are comparison machines.
Well, exactly. And this is a huge part of my neurosis, which I've been working on and going through, which is that comparison, which is a fucking death pattern. I mean, because especially
Your-
in my
your-
situation,
your mom's a legend, your stepdad's a legend,
stars
your sister's
everywhere.
approaching legendary status. Yeah.
And then now, and then now I've got my little brother who's fucking. He hurts his groin playing hockey, and he goes, "I'm gonna be an actor."
And he's
Then
phenomenal.
he's like Marvel and fucking this, and he's a sick actor, and I'm like, I'm gonna move to Colorado. No, but it's really been a beautiful thing for me, and in my growth as a man, as someone who wants to be in this business, and having to sort of recognize these things, recognize the comparisons that I make that are just so outrageous. Just trying to live in my truth and live in my happiness.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, especially being in the mountains and especially having this time, has created such stability in myself, in my wife, in our relationship, in our family.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, money doesn't buy happiness, but I'm happy. So fucking back up the Brinks truck.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I
Like-
don't not want it.
Right.
It's just not the thing I
Right.
thought it was.
No, I
Yeah.
totally get that. And there are two different perspectives on that. And that's my sort of situation right now. It's like things are great. I want to focus on my career now and get my shit going. And I just want money to be comfortable, not to make me happy, just to be like, whew,
Yeah.
no worries.
I think, too, again, this goes back to why the sibling thing is really interesting because, you know, when you do have a close connection to your siblings, like you see things objectively, you can witness things
sure.
that, of course, you know they don't want to confront at times. And Oliver could be looking and having comparisons as an actor to the success of like our family. I'm looking at Oliver going, do you realize what you have that none of us do? You're the storyteller that you are, the writer. I mean, he's such an unbelievable writer. I mean, it's crazy.
Overwhelmed.
Like when he was young, he used to win like weird. They'd be like, Ollie, you're a really great poet. You should like enter a contest. And he'd been like the #1 national junior poet. And he'd be like, oh, all right, whatever. I mean, I think sometimes when you suffer from certain kind of sabotaging behaviors, you don't go after the things you're great at
Well,
because it's terrifying.
Again, I think
So-
you can be a victim of your intelligence, and I think you can be a victim of your charm. Like you can float through anything.
You're so fucking right.
It's
Yeah,
so
it's
true.
just
what I've
like-
gotten by
Drives
on
me
my
nuts.
whole life.
Drives me.
My whole
If
life.
I look like you, I'd be doing the same thing.
I mean, he's handsome and charming.
God, it's handsome
And
as the day is long.
I watch it as a sister. I'm like, he's so fucking, what a fucking asshole. How does he do it?
I know, but that's a great analysis. I've never even thought about that, but you're not wrong. I mean, I've gotten through life just sort of, hey, I can figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Well, and I wonder, in the midst of all that, like the comparison stuff, have you gotten the same pleasure out of having kids that I have, in the sense that it's the first thing I've attached my identity to that's real? Mm-hmm. Like not writer, director, actor, comedian, all these things that are someone else can potentially decide whether I'm those things.
Yeah.
But the dad thing is like, oh, I'm a fucking dad for life now. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I was born to be a
dad.
father.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to
He's
do.
the
It's my
best
#1 priority over
dad
my
on the
career, over
planet.
everything. It's literally, this is it. This is all I care about. I mean, not all, but it's about being with my kids, but it's also about just making sure they're good human beings.
Yeah.
School, fine, whatever. I just want them to be good humans. And when you talk about identity, there's a danger though, and I fell into this trap. I did this show called Nashville for 2 years, and Wilder was going into first grade. And I was away a lot, going back and forth.
Yeah.
And he was a confident kid all through his life. Something happened in first grade where he was just shattered, anxiety ridden, and they couldn't drop him off at school. I had to sit with him for an hour. And Aaron did as well for 2 hours. And what happened was I began to attach my identity with his.
Sure.
And I started to feel these things. And then it became this vicious circle because he's feeling me and I'm feeling him.
Yeah.
And I was losing it. I had panic attacks in Nashville. I had to go on Lexapro. I was like fucked up.
Yeah.
And I, through therapy, we see the same therapist.
Family therapy.
I had to learn to detach myself from him.
Yeah.
And the minute I did that, it took a few weeks, but we both started to heal a little bit, which was gnarly.
Well, we were talking about this study that just came out that John Hopkins used to treat children that were going through kind of developmental issues, right? And they would treat them with therapy. And then they decided, let's try to also treat the parent at the same time. And they got some better results from that. And then someone said, let's just treat the parent and see what happens. And that went up like tenfold. Just because you're right, they're an extension of your own ego, which is super dangerous.
Right.
Well, you also think when you start going, like I started remembering all these things that defined my choices in life. Like, remember one thing in particular, I always go, why did I never sing? Because that is my great passion, like music, singing. Why did I never really do that? I was terrified of it. Why do I have such terrible stage fright? And it all boiled down to this like one moment that was so tiny. And I'm sure it wasn't that parent's fault. I'm sure they didn't realize how defining that was for me. It was literally career defining. I was really excited to share something that I had recorded. And that parent listened to a verse and then ejected the
Tape.
and said, that's great. And I was like, no, but the bridge is the best part. You got to see. And I must have been 7 or 8, and just was like, no, I got it. I heard it, and that was it. And it was devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was left with.
Oh, we certainly do that stuff all the time. We don't even know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Yeah.
even realize it until I was doing all this therapy.
Because by the
And
way,
I
your
was
kid's
oh
like
my God.
70,000 things. So if they're
yeah.
like, Dad, watch me climb the roof. I don't know they're an aspiring mountain
No, I know.
climber.
I know.
I don't know I'm killing their
I know.
fucking
That's what I'm
spelunking dreams.
saying.
Yeah.
Now I communicate differently. I want to hear everything.
Uh-huh.
I want to know everything you want to do. I'm just a little in my own head right now, honey, and I gotta like tune out for 1 second, and then we can hear this later.
Yeah.
Right,
I have
right.
guilt.
Right? I mean,
all
Right.
over that. I have guilt because Dad left, and now I'm like a fucking hyper parent.
Oh,
of
it's
like,
crazy.
"Well, that's really good. Like, do it again. Maybe you should make a career out of this. I'm here to support you. I'm like a
he's
fucking
also
crazy person.
Oliver
I'm
is truly super dad, even to my kids.
Really quick, when I was, again, reading about y'all, which is weird to read about people you already know, it lists your like 3 baby daddies. This is back to you going like, well, I had a great life. I feel guilty acknowledging maybe I had some things that were not desirable and that I probably need to look at them. But I was just looking at the thing today. I've never added this up in my head because I don't even know about the 3rd child, but 3 children with 3 musicians. And Dad was a musician who split.
Right.
And you're like,
Yeah.
well, no matter how much you
straightforward.
think you know what's going on in the moment, like you can't see the forest. The forest
Well-
is right there in a sense.
My
Here we go.
intelligence has an answer. As
Oh,
an
good.
answer.
I can't wait. I can't wait to lose. Tell me.
No, I'm really musical. And
Mm-hmm.
I think like there is the connecting to Dad in terms of music, but I think there is just also musical people do like being with musical people.
Yeah.
I
But
think-
again, is
I
it
like
like
the other.
chicken or the
Yeah.
egg?
I like-
Do you love music? I don't know.
I can't explain it unless you're somebody who feels music the way I feel
But
music.
you can't deny the genetics. I mean,
That's what I mean.
yeah. So Dad, that's a part of you.
My connection, every time I sing, every time I write, I feel Dad. To me, that's one of the great reasons why I didn't approach that as a career.
But again, you used to sing with Chris
We sang, yeah.
and you loved it.
yeah.
When you were singing with Chris, do you think it felt that's something you and your dad should have done? Like that's something if your dad had stuck around forever, you would have done with your dad.
for sure.
Yeah.
If it was a good relationship.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I also just think like there is just the musical gene.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is not
yeah.
necessarily the psychological part of it, because yes and no. I'm just attracted to musical people.
Right.
There's people who love to sit and intellectuals love to sit and talk about, the great literature of all time.
Of
I
Valentino's
sitting,
library.
Yeah, I like sitting with people and feeling and talking and listening and writing and singing music. like,
Yeah.
and so I'm always attracted to them.
Would
Yeah.
you ever, as a cathartic experiment, write an album with Dad?
Oh God, Oliver.
What if all of a sudden I was like, bring him in? Bill on
With a guitar?
that. He already had 10 songs written. He just needed vocals.
Oh God.
Okay, really quick now.
Yeah.
The very fun thing was right when we met, we went to Muskoka
So fun.
for like 10 days. And that was like, there was nothing to do but have fun.
Oh, dude. Muskoka has seen all of Kate's boyfriends. And it's the best. One morning I wake up in Muskoka and I'm like, who is that? And it's Alex Rodriguez, waist deep in the lake, doing these like stretches. And he's like silhouetted by the morning sun, and I'm like, look at this man right now.
Anyways, we got back from that trip, and right thereafter, we're at your house, and you get a call that is like, oh my God, let's go. We got to go. And I'm like, where are we going? We got to go to Cedars. Ollie's having his baby.
Oh God.
It is like, I don't know, 12 or 1 in the morning.
It was
right?
1 in the morning.
Yeah.
We'd just gotten back to
Yeah.
where were
And
we? Were
this is the greatest because Oliver and I have been friends for a while.
Yeah.
And we get to the hospital, and Oliver's just like, what is he doing?
Well, dude, I call Kate.
That's fair. That's fair.
My whole family
Well, wait a
is
minute.
not in town,
Hold on
and
a
Kate's
second.
in town.
Hold on a second. She went into labor 3 weeks early.
Right.
Nobody was home.
Yeah.
Right.
I am like, my type A goes into like hyperdrive. Like, I got to get to the thing. I got to make sure they have a room. I got to make sure that
Right.
like we got this all.
But from my perspective, Kate's the only one to call. Kate, it's happening. Great. That was it. We'll meet you at Cedars.
Yeah.
Aaron's in the car. We pull into the parking garage and we get out and we first see Kate. Hi. We're like, hey. And then all of a sudden, Dax comes around the corner. I'm like, Dax? I was like, what's up, dude? Like, what's going on?
We're not
You're like,
playing
I'm
tonight.
here.
Listen, I remember the exact exchange. So there was the parking garage, which was, you were like, oh goodness, you're here. And then there was the elevator. And I looked at you, like I kind of got an alone moment with you. And I go, look, I don't want to be here any more than you want me here. So let's get through this. And
It was amazing, though. By the way, it was one of the
so
greatest
great.
experiences ever. Dax was in the room the whole time. We had video cameras. He's all over Wilder's birth. I mean,
What?
because Aaron,
Oh my God.
Aaron,
In the room?
oh, Aaron is getting IVs
She's getting
the whole
IV.
thing, and
Well,
I'm like
she
filming
got a
Aaron.
C-section.
Yeah.
So the prep.
Above that,
He's in the.
yeah.
We were in the prep room.
Right, C-section. Sorry. So then I'm shooting Aaron, and I pan
still.
up. I'm like, Dax, how you feeling? And he's like, I'm pretty good.
Oh my
and
God.
then the baby arrives, beautiful Wilder,
Yeah.
and I watch him get processed,
Yeah.
and I had
Yes.
never seen that, and so I'm watching through the window,
Yeah.
and they were treating him like a fucking chicken. They
Yeah.
were battering and about to put in. They
Yeah.
were picked him up by the feet, and they were like slathering him, and they were. I was like, they are so rough with that little guy, like he's brand new, and they're scrubbing him and everything. And I was telling you, I'm like, they're really giving him the once over there. Yeah,
But I will say that it was, as funny as it was really an amazingly fun experience for us. And it changed the whole dynamic because it's our first kid. There's nerves all around that, you know, especially for Aaron.
Early, it
And,
was
and
like-
Dax is there to provide this comic relief. And it's just this really fun,
I was just about to say,
crazy
were you just
time.
making jokes the whole time?
yeah, because it was so awkward. I was
Yeah,
there.
it's
I had to
uncomfortable.
relieve it.
It's also, I think, one of the things for us, it's like family dynamics is one thing, but then it was me, Oliver, my date,
2-week boyfriend. Yeah, your third date.
and his wife. It was kind of like this really, it made it less.
It felt young
It
and
felt
like a
young,
party.
right.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
But
It was different.
But the strangest
felt
part
different.
is Kate says, okay, babe, Dax, brother's having a baby. Let's go. And Dax was like,
Okay, I know.
He didn't say, well, drop me off.
Yeah.
Or he's like, let's do this.
Sure.
Dax was always game.
Oh, dude.
Oh, that's so funny.
Fucking great.
Wait,
Okay, back to your Kate, your kind of relationship with what's real, what's not, what's fun, and how to navigate all that, which you do well. You happen to have lived with one of the greatest examples of it of all time, because I've said many times, I've met so many of my heroes at this point. Most of them don't deliver. You're pretty bummed most of the time. You're like, oh, they're kind of unhappy. Kurt is he is the high water mark for me of a guy I met where I was like, oh, his identity isn't that job. He's his own man first. And then that was something he did to make money. There's something so healthy about him. Very inspirational guy to meet. Listen, he wooed me in.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember we
He
took
loved-
boat rides
he
together, we
loved
went
Dax.
flying together. When we were dive bombing the dock that you guys were all on, I thought, he's going to lose control of this aircraft and we're going to die. And I remember thinking, of the many ways to go, this is up there.
Not a bad one.
It's not a bad one.
Kamikazing into the
He's
lake
such a
with Kurt
great-
Russell.
He's such a great pilot.
Yeah.
I love OJ. I mean, that is the
Oh,
greatest.
the OJ. Oh my God, the OJ story.
Which one?
We were at
Inserted
Meryl. We were
himself.
at Meryl Streep and Dawn were living in LA, and they were moving to Connecticut. And we went to their house to have like a go away barbecue with like the kid, all the kids, and Amy and Henry and everybody. We all went over there. And we are there, the news is on, and all of a sudden it was like, we heard one person at Meryl's house going like, oh my God, turn on the news. You turn on the news, and it is the white Bronco on the 405.
The
and
OJ
the
chase.
OJ chase. And Meryl used to live on Rockingham, South Rockingham. And I think it was, or Burlingame, one of those, like right.
Same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood. And we're all sitting there watching, and Kurt, as he does, got really excited. It was like, this is fucking unbelievable. We are witnessing history. It was like he was standing, he was so excited. It was crazy to him. He's like, there's a couple things that are going to happen. He started going through everything that would happen. He was either going to end up killing himself. Right. They were going to end up, they're driving to Mexico. And then there was a moment where they're on the 405 and Kurt goes, he's going home. He's going fucking home. And he's like, done. And he turns to Meryl's husband and he's like, we gotta go. And they walk to OJ's house.
They leave.
No.
They leave
Yes.
watching the news coverage.
And then Mom and Meryl were like, you got to be careful. Like, we don't know what's happening, right? They go to OJ's house, which is a couple blocks away. And we're watching the news, and you see like Shapiro, and you see what's his
Kardashian,
name?
maybe?
Yes, like Kardashian.
Yeah.
And all of us, it's all roped off.
No,
and
no.
you see Paul. Yes.
I don't know
you
this story.
See
I don't know.
him. We saw him, and he's shaking hands with like Shapiro or one of those guys. And we're like, oh, there's Paul.
He inserted himself
He
into the
literally
biggest
is like,
news story of
he's
the
like,
century.
And Kurt, he's probably like, hey guys, this is crazy. But that's what happened.
The best part
and
is
then Kurt comes back and he's like, yeah, got to see like, the guy, like, and Mom and Meryl were like, you're insane. Real story.
In his worldview that like gunplay was a 50% chance. In his worldview, he's like, this thing's probably going to end in gunplay, and I still am going to be right there.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Shit's going to go sideways, and I need to have a front row seat to it.
Oh, my
It
God.
was
I've
so
never
funny.
heard that
yeah,
story.
It was a real story. That's Paul. Like in his mind, he's like, "This is history.
Yeah.
I need to go towards
be a part of it.
Be a part of
Absolutely.
what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah,
here. It's
yeah,
right
yeah.
down the street. I'm the neighbor.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Okay, but what's the name of the podcast again?
Sibling revelry.
Right.
Yeah, it comes out today.
Today.
So look for
great.
Sibling Revelry.
Today. Chelsea Handler and her sister so far. Our friend Tay Diggs and his brother.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy
his
Kimmel,
brother.
his brother. And we've got a bunch of cool experts. We're medical.
Dr. Shafali from
Dr.
The Conscious
Shefali.
Parent.
Medical medium is coming on.
We've got The Mentalist.
Yeah. You know who was great was, I don't know if you know this comedian, Bobby Lee.
Oh, yeah. Love him.
So he was on the show that I just did, and Bobby Lee and his brother. It was so phenomenal. Their life growing up was so unbelievable.
Crazy.
And we had this moment at the end where Bobby told his brother like how he felt about him.
I
and
asked.
had never, Kate prompted it, and you'd never heard his brother speak to him this way.
I said if there's one thing that you could say to your brother that you'd always want him to feel and know about himself? Like, what would it
Right,
be?
that he might not know.
Yeah.
What do you know about your brother that he doesn't know himself? And it was so beautiful to watch these two comedians who are fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Totally not.
Just
Yeah,
slow down
that's
a little bit
lovely.
and talk. Man,
What's
I
so
mean,
nice about that is I don't know if you guys experience this, but my brother will rarely give me a compliment like to my face, but I'll run into people. They'll be like, "Oh, your brother said this and your brother said that." Like I'll go, "Oh, wow, he's proud of me around town or to people."
Right.
And that's the only way I really hear it.
Yeah.
And it is a
We're like we're a little gushy,
Yeah.
types.
Yeah, no, we are, but it's not easy. It's like we were talking about before that to be vulnerable and to say to Kate, you know, this is how I feel about you. It's for me, it feels. I'm like, oh my God, am I really saying this right now? I want to, but I'm like, there's so much potential damage, even though that's a narrative and it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But there is so much potential damage by speaking the truth.
Yeah.
For me personally, that's one of my big shit. That's one of the big things I'm working on in my life, you know. But it's fun bringing it back. It's fun to have these siblings come on, and there's an openness that seems to have happened that we weren't counting on.
One of the great things that happens every time is Oliver always asks, like, did you ever have a moment where you were jealous of like where your sibling was going? Like,
Because
you're
usually-
famous, yeah.
Right.
And without like hesitation, every sibling will go, "Oh no, I was like so proud. I'm so excited for them." And
And
Oliver's
Kate's like, see?
Oliver's like, "Oh, come on. Come on." I'm like, "Oliver, this is your issue."
I want someone to connect with me,
But
too.
I'm surprised that that's always the answer.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
every time.
I think some of
Interesting.
them are lying.
They
I do
must be.
too. a little bit.
No.
Really?
No. I don't think so. I think it's coming from a really honest place. I think Oliver just particularly holds on to these
Someone will agree with me
things. At some point.
Yeah.
I project endlessly.
Oh.
It's like that's where I start. It's like, really? You don't have any problem with like drinking? How often do you drink? Like, you can't be this charismatic and not have a drinking problem. Like,
exactly.
how can that happen?
Come on. I mean, you have a sex addiction, right?
Right. You like to fuck.
Everyone.
You like to fuck too much, right?
Right. They're like, no.
It's like hard for you not to fuck all day, right?
Our guests are like, no.
There's some good Dax stories that I didn't reveal on this yet.
Oh man.
But I don't think I'm allowed to say them.
What are they?
Well, because it's kind of like this climate. I don't know. We can talk about some of the things.
If it's our story, sure.
Really?
Yeah.
But
Give us one.
Yeah.
okay. Well, one thing that
So excited. Okay, well.
there was a couple. There's one that I'll never forget, which is one of my favorites. There's a particular girlfriend that I had. She always seemed, we don't talk much anymore, but every friend that we have, it was like if you had a boyfriend, she was always like so affectionate with the boyfriend.
This could be
oh
one
my
of
God. We were
10
in New
stories
York
in your apartment.
and I was cooking and there was the kitchen, the dining room, and then you were watching television in the living room. And Juliana, my friend, goes, "You have to go look at what your friend is doing with Dax right now." I go out, and Dax is sort of lying on the sofa. And he's lying there as stiff as a board with his hands as if like, I'm not. Do you remember this?
No.
Oh my God.
I had a boner?
And I,
No, you
no.
were trying to be
Thank God. Your body.
Oh
You
my
were-
God.
No.
stiff as a
Jeez,
board.
I got so
no.
nervous.
No, he's your body. You were like shoved
not to
on
move.
this, trying not to move. And my
had a
friend was lying on top of you, literally watching television with you.
What?
And I remember coming out and I said her name. I'll say Jane for
Sure.
sake of
Yeah.
it.
Jane.
And I remember I had an apron on, no joke, and a cooking spoon. And I remember going, Jane, what are you doing? And she looked, and Dax looked at me, and I don't know how to. But Dax was like, I don't know what to do. And she's literally like lying on top of him. But you were very respectful.
Well, it was
and you
almost,
were very sweet because you didn't know what to do. But I don't.
it's almost like when
you
a
don't
kid,
remember this.
you'll go to like a party
That
with
is
your
so
kids, right?
weird.
And one of the
So
kids will
weird.
just be crazy affectionate with you. And you're like, I don't really know. I don't want to make this kid feel weird about being
Right.
so affectionate, but this is way too much affection for us as strangers.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was in that feeling that way.
Dude, so real quick, there's this kid at my daughter's preschool last year. Every time I came in, he would run to me and want me to pick him up. So I'd pick him up and I'd hold him. And he'd touch my face and be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Beard? beard? And he goes, lips.
Oh, wow.
Lips. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I like try to put him down. It's the same situation where I'm
not
like,
trigger any.
no, I don't want to feel him, but I'm like, okay.
And you don't want
his
other people around to
parents-
think you had this thing with this
right.
little
Like
child.
I've coaxed him to sort of do
Yeah.
Oh, and your own kids do too. The other night we were laying in bed, and my 4-year-old comes in, and we're laying in bed, and she comes up into my ear, and she goes, "Daddy, can I scratch your butthole?" And I go, and I'm like, okay. I don't want to make her feel weird about this because it's clearly not a sexual thing for her. I can't imagine why she wants to scratch my butthole.
Sounds like a shepherd.
And I go, you know what, hon? I think I'm too insecure to let you scratch my butthole.
Is that what you
God.
said?
Yeah.
Wait, can
I'm
I
like-
ask you a question? Do you still have a propensity to get naked? Because that was something that is another story.
Oh, well,
wanna
I
make
thought
sure
that was
I'm
the story you were
comfortable
telling it. I thought
The
because
other
it was the
time
same kitchen.
with the window. Mhm.
Yeah.
So now we're all sitting there, the girls, we're like smoking, drinking, whatever. I don't know where Dax was. I don't know what he was doing at the time, but we're dating and he's in the New York apartment, or house. And all of a sudden, we're in like girl talk mode, and there's about 4 of us, something like that. Just literally, I don't know what happened and how this ended up, or where this came from, or what was like.
I remember
why-
you saying, "Babe, show them."
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were probably having the girl talk about the peens.
Right.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
serious conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
The
And then I pushed it up
And
against
you
this
pushed
glass.
it up against this glass wall, and the girls were like, "Oh my god!" And then he left, and they were like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Oh my god!"
No. Whether
You know, when Chris and I were first dating, like maybe 6 months in, she's like, is there anyone you haven't shown your dick to in this town? And
Right.
she was rightly a little bummed by it that everyone we met had seen my dick. And I got defensive at first. And then I was like, you know what? I don't love how I look. I've always liked my dick. I showed my dick off because I wanted approval and I don't like how I look.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. And I did it to everyone. And I really wanted that
I'm like,
approval.
really
I'm like
sweet.
cry now.
And then she
That's
was
so
like,
sweet.
I
she
feel
went from
emotional.
being really mad at me to going like, okay, I kind of get that.
It's a beautiful,
Dick.
beautiful.
Oh, what a great note to end.
Right, exactly.
Well, you guys, I love you.
Yeah,
and
I
you
love
guys
you,
are
man.
always
I
so
love
fun.
you.
One of the funnest things of dating you was hanging out with Ollie all the time. You guys' family is so
Yeah,
fun. And
that's-
you talk about all the shit, and it's really, really fun. And
Yeah.
I hope everyone listens to Sibling Revelry out right now. So go listen.
Gracias.
Hello?
Is this Camille?
Hi.
Hi.
Neil, it's Monica and Dax.
Hi, Monica and Dax.
Hey.
This is very surreal.
So it was your 30th birthday, we understand, and your husband bought you a left-handed mug.
Yes, my husband and his family. I need to throw them in there too because I hit the jackpot with my in-laws. So they got together and they purchased a mug, pretty much primarily to help spread awareness about my son's genetic syndrome that he was born with.
What's your son's name?
His name is Jackson.
And what is his genetic disorder?
It's called 22q11 deletion syndrome, and it is the second most common genetic syndrome that most people have never heard of.
So I heard deletion. So that means we're missing some genetic material. Is that the case?
We are.
On the 22nd pair?
The 22nd chromosome, and then it's on the Q11.2. That's the location.
Uh-huh.
So it actually has a lot more names. DeGeorge is one of them, velocardiofacial syndrome. The list kind of goes on.
And so the material that's at that loci on the 22nd chromosome, what information should be there that's not there?
Well, it's really hard to tell. There's actually there's like maybe around 200 symptoms that can go along with 22q11 deletion. That's why it's so hard to diagnose. And so people are realizing that all of these symptoms, when they, go in and their kids are just having a lot of issues, they're realizing all of these symptoms are actually linked to one syndrome specifically.
And now that people can actually get their genome mapped, is that helping with identifying people with this condition?
To some effect. My husband and I had to go through we didn't have to, but we did go through genetic counseling ourselves as well. And the technology is definitely becoming more accessible, but it's still very expensive. And so a lot of families are self-diagnosing on the internet and then going to their doctors, because a lot of times health professionals and even teachers haven't heard of this syndrome before.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to provide services that wrap around for a child or even an adult's care, because a lot of times people aren't even diagnosed until they're an adult.
So in general, is it developmental? How does it explain itself in Jackson?
There's a whole list. And so for Jackson specifically, and it's just easiest to give one example, is we found out when I was still pregnant around 24 weeks, and we saw a heart defect.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an interrupted aortic arch and VSD. And because of his specific heart defect, our cardiologist was in the know enough to suggest that we might want to go through genetic testing to see if he had what she called the DeGeorge, which we later have come to find out people are trying to call 22q11.
Right.
And so he has a whole host of other issues that we've been dealing with. He's followed by maybe 9 to 11 specialties throughout his life so far. He has the heart issue. When he was born, he had low calcium and also a low immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Part of his thymus was missing, which is the place in the body that really helps boost your immune system. It essentially educates the body on how to fight off illness.
Mm-hmm.
Growth hormones are something. Neuro and psychological delays are sometimes associated. There's kidney, GI issues, learning. There's some mental health issues that come later on in life a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And when you have a diagnosis, you have no idea what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a spectrum disorder.
And I would imagine there's not a ton of funding for research and treatment for this.
No,
because this is the first time I'm hearing of it. And,
exactly.
And I fancy myself a real medical genius, as you know.
Where? I was so nervous about making sure no one had to do a fact check for me.
So I would imagine there is a foundation that you believe in that you think's doing good work for these kids.
Yes, absolutely. So there are a few foundations and a lot of them are popping up, but we decided that we would really like to donate money to the 22Q Family Foundation.
And where would people find 22Q Family Foundation? On the internet?
It's online. Yep. They have a website. You can go there and learn all about the syndrome as well. The Family Foundation specifically, they focus on a lot of education services and scholarships. They work with kids and adults who have 22Q for career counseling and IEP counseling. And they're also really trying to educate teachers so that teachers are well informed of this syndrome, so that if they have students in their classroom, they can help with, the services that need to be done for education as well.
Well, Camille, as you know, we will be then forwarding the $2,000 that your husband and family members spent on this very overpriced left-handed coffee mug. So we're going to go ahead and forward that $2,000 to the 22Q Family Foundation. And
that's awesome.
We really appreciate you bringing attention to this, and we wish you a ton of luck with Jackson, and we also hope you have fun in Montana.
Thank you. I so appreciate your kindness in helping me raise a little bit of awareness.
Yes, and happy 30th birthday.
Thank you. Best birthday present.
Wonderful. Well, nice talking to you, Camille.
Good to talk to you both. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye. And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman. Check my facts. When you check out my facts, are you ever like, nice facts? Never.
Well,
The ones I get right?
no.
Okay.
I don't think
You're
that.
never that proud of me about that kind of
I'm
stuff.
not,
No. You relish when I come up short.
Every now and then I'll think like, oh, he was right.
Oh, wow.
But that's really what happens.
You're
Oh,
shocked.
he was right. Okay.
Next thing.
Moving on.
Next up. I was talking to my mom last night about you, and I was telling her that I am a mere player in your father's virtual reality. That's what I was explaining.
Oh,
to her.
yes, we.
Because when I sent you that text, I had accidentally sent it to my mom. Did I tell you that part of it?
No.
Think about my mom getting this text that said, "Oh my God, I just figured it out. I'm an actual avatar in your father's virtual reality." Now, her father's been dead since I was 12. So I don't know what she thought of that text.
Whoa.
And then I wrote back, "Oops, sorry, that was for Monica." And then I felt obligated last night to explain it to her.
Do you want to tell everyone about it? I mean, no one knows what you're talking about. So you have a theory.
So generally, well, people are pretty aware of this notion of that maybe we're in a virtual reality. I think Elon Musk is the one who really got it into the zeitgeist, right?
Yeah.
He thinks he's in a virtual reality. I pointed out, I doubt someone who digs latrines thinks they're in a virtual reality, right? That was kind of my takeaway is that, yeah, people who have gotten too much good fortune feel that way. I've gotten too much good fortune, so it seems plausible. So, I've sat around and contemplated whether this is a virtual reality because things are suspiciously good for me.
Yes.
But what hit me the other day was I was just sitting around thinking about a show, as I do, and I was like, God, think about his life. He grew up in India. He came here when he was 20-some years old, and he created a great career for himself. He got married. He had these 2 beautiful children. One of the children's moved to Los Angeles. She's become rich and famous. And her coworker might end up introducing Ashok to Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah, my dad's favorite politician.
He's obsessed with her. And I have made it one of my goals to introduce him to her. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but it's on my list of things to do.
Oh, man.
So as I was contemplating how I'm going to get those two together, I was like, oh, I'm playing a role in his virtual reality, in his simulation.
Yeah.
And it makes so much more sense. But what I was shocked by is like, how cool the simulation gives me a whole story. Like, I really believe I'm alive.
Yeah.
It's a really complex simulation.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around this.
Your dad is hooked to a machine in some other place.
Right.
I don't know what that place looks like. Is it look like a Costco with no merchandise and just humans on the shelves?
Uh-huh.
I don't know what it looks like, but your dad is hooked to this machine, and it created this reality for him.
Yeah.
And I'm simply one of the characters
So
in it.
you, Dax,
I'm not
doesn't
hooked to anything.
exist.
No, but the VR is so good, the simulation is so good, which makes sense. The characters would have to believe they're real to do a good job.
Sure.
So I think I'm real. Or when they pull the plug out of his head, I'm going to disappear.
How do we know if we're in my dad's or if we're in mine or yours?
I'm inclined to think I'm in your dad's.
Why?
That's my new conclusion. I mean, he left one place and came to another, and he's got a whole like Iliadic kind of journey, a saga. Mine doesn't. I left Milford, Michigan, and now I'm here.
But you kind of escaped all this trauma, and then you had sobriety.
Mm-hmm. All sounds a little too storybook now, doesn't it?
Oh, so my dad invented that too?
Yes,
for you.
The architect of your dad's
So
simulation.
who's the architect of my dad? Is
One
it
of
my
two things happen. Your dad either lived some other life in another area.
Okay.
And then as he was dying, they hooked him up to this machine, and now he's just living in a simulation. Mm-hmm. That's one option. 2, he was born in the simulation. His body's been being used to create BTUs like the Matrix. He's just a source of energy.
Okay.
In which case, he's never had a real life. He's only had the virtual reality life.
Right.
So I don't know who the architect is that owns the Costco warehouse.
Yeah,
where your
who
dad's
is
body
that? Who's owning my dad?
Probably Elon Musk.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because even if he was the architect, his own ego would want. He'd
He
put
has to
himself
be in the
Yes,
simulations?
kind of like God. Like he has an ego like God does.
Wow. I hope all this is true.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool?
No, I love to think that I like all
you-
these things I did were real.
That you're real?
Yeah.
Who cares? What's the difference?
You're right. Who cares? A nihilist point of view. Who gives a shit?
What does it matter?
These little monkeys stayed busy until they were died.
And not even real monkeys.
Fake virtual monkeys.
Weird. So we had Kate on.
Kate and
Oliver.
Gary. Kate and Oliver. Kate's middle name is Gary. I wish I would have brought that up. That was probably the coolest thing about her, I thought, when I met her, was her fucking middle name is Gary.
Yeah.
That's a cool middle name for a girl.
And do you know why?
I think after her uncle.
Wow.
Yeah. I think she's named after her uncle.
Is her name Caitlin?
Not to my knowledge.
Her name is just Kate Gary.
Hudson. I'm not positive about that, but I think so. I know the Gary part is
Let me look
for
it up
sure.
right now. I'm going to look it up. to see if it says it on Wikipedia. I wish you knew because you did date her. Mm-hmm. Okay. It just says Kate Gary Hudson.
There we go.
It does not
I bet it is
say
that.
Caitlin or Catherine.
Yeah. Are most Kates a Catherine or a Caitlin? Or
Kate is a short name. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's only 4 letters in it.
Kate
Yeah.
is short for Catherine normally.
Oh, okay. I really didn't
Or
know
Caitlin.
this. You're saying it's like Bob and Robert, which, by the way, is so stupid.
Well, it's actually
You can't change the first letter of a name.
I know. I don't like. It's not like Bob and Robert. Kate is literally short for Catherine.
Right, but what about back to Robert and Bob?
Okay, yeah, we don't like that.
That would be like if your name was Thomas, but you went by Tim.
Yeah, or Bomb.
I guess they do it in Thomas because you don't go by Thom.
Well, no, but it's not Thomas.
No, but it is Thomas.
I know, but that's just spelling. It's not. You're not changing the sound.
Right. Thomas. I think people in Spanish-speaking countries that are Thomas are Thomas.
No, they're Tomas.
Okay. Tomato. Tomato. And is Gary generally the nickname for Gerald?
No, that's Jerry. Yeah.
Or do they switch it to a J?
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh God.
Sometimes it's switched to a J. No, I think Jerry that's a J is just Jerry.
Or Gerard.
Gerard's a G.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh. Or Gerard Butler.
That's
Gerald Butler.
That's Gerald, yeah. And
Gerard Butler.
Gerard, yeah.
Yeah, not Gerald Butler.
Kate
Hudson and Oliver Hudson.
So
Isn't Oliver Hudson handsome?
Yeah, he is handsome.
He's really handsome.
Very.
He's very effortlessly handsome too. It's not like he looks like he manicures himself. Or
No.
something. It's not like he puts himself together so well that you're like, oh, this guy's debonair. He just is effortlessly handsome as hell.
Yeah, he was charming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and cute.
You can tell he's fun as hell.
Yeah, he seems fun.
I used to hang out with him a ton when I was younger, and we had so much fun.
I know. Kate, was it weird or no?
Well, what was weird is on the way here, I was like, okay, well, we dated. I'm not going to try to pretend we didn't. That'll get acknowledged. But I don't think it'll be an exploration of what our relationship was like. But then I thought, but Oliver's going to be here. And he's a shit starter and a rascal. And he might poke. Which he did right out of the gates. He said, "Who broke up with who?"
Well,
which
yeah.
is a prime time
to be fair,
big brother.
To be fair to him, you guys were talking about it. She said, "Have you ever had anyone on you
An
dated?"
ex-girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah, and then you talked about it a little bit, and then he said, "Who broke up with who?" By the way,
Right, which is a very inflammatory kind of question.
I don't think so.
I would never ask 2 people who broke up with who.
I would.
You would?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. No one would.
I would if it was my brother. I probably feel comfortable
Exactly.
enough. Yeah.
Exactly. But none of our friends, if we were over and they said, "Oh yeah, we used to date," you would never go, "Who broke up with who?" Because someone will be embarrassed by the fact that they were the one broken up with.
That's true.
It's a very rude question, unless it's your sister and an old friend.
sister.
Then it's very funny.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I had a hunch something like that might happen.
Well, okay, here's the other thing. Also, obviously, you guys don't hate each other or she wouldn't be here.
Right.
So he
Yeah,
probably
very
felt
amicable.
like it's fine to talk or ask because, first of all, you guys decided to talk about it.
Uh-huh.
And you both clearly are fine being around each other, flirting like crazy. So I might as well ask. Did you feel, because you haven't seen each other in a long time, right? It's been a while?
No,
or
I bumped into her maybe a year and a half ago at the Supercross race. And then before that, I saw her baby to baby. I've probably seen her once a year.
You've seen her,
Yeah.
but you haven't spent a legitimate amount of time together.
No, we probably
and-
talked for 5 or 10 minutes at the motocross race.
Okay,
and we
yeah.
probably talked for 5 or 10 at baby to baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess my question is, when you're in this environment, in an intimate environment, does it trigger those old feelings? Not in a infidelity way, but
No.
not in a betrayal way, but in just oh yeah, I remember what it's like to be with her. That was fun.
Yeah, but as I discussed in the podcast, I'm more reminded of how I felt when I dated her when I see her, which I didn't like how I felt.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
It is interesting.
And you don't think there's just like a little thread for both of you? I mean, I think that's very common with people when they're knowing they're going to see an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, that there's like I want them to feel like I got away.
Oh, like I got away?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, on some ego level, I would love for her to feel like I got away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, all my other relationships, this is the only relationship, it's unique in this category that my other relationships, I didn't feel bad in them.
Right.
I never felt bad in any of the other relationships I've had. That's the only relationship I was in that I felt bad in the relationship.
Yeah.
I felt less than, and I felt not worthy and shittier than, and all those things.
Yeah.
And I don't miss that.
Right.
There's no nostalgia for me about that. I was going to say that I initially thought, oh, I will not deny we dated or acted like we didn't. That's public knowledge.
Yeah.
We'll have to address that. Oh, Oliver might fuck with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I better actually be prepared to know what I would say about this. If I have to sum up this relationship we had in front of the person,
yeah,
I better know what that summation is in my head.
Right.
And if I was caught off guard, maybe I would have maybe been inclined to just start listing the reasons I thought we broke up, which would have probably been very blamey to her. And I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that about anyone I've broken up with.
Right.
So
what's the point of that?
Yeah, I'm not working on them. I'm working on me.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, if you ask me publicly why Bree and I broke up, I'm inclined to give you all the reasons that I failed. I have opinions of things she could have done better.
Sure.
But I wouldn't be apt to share those.
Yeah.
Or if we ever even talked about it, I don't even think I'd bring them up to her.
Right.
It's almost not my business. My business is my stuff.
Yeah.
Anywho.
I think that's true.
So it was a very unique, interesting conversation.
Yeah.
To go through your relationship.
Yeah.
And talk about why it wasn't a match.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Very weird.
Yeah.
And cool.
But I found interesting.
You're
really digging in your pants.
Because I just made a pocket. I made a pocket.
Are you playing pocket pool right now? Are you diddling yourself?
No.
They're silky pants. If I was wearing silky pants like you, I would be fucking diddling and poking and squeezing my genitalia the whole day.
This pant didn't have a pocket, and I
you
just made
ripped a
one.
hole in it? Or was it sewn shut?
I think it was sewn shut, and I just
I have that with some of my dress slack.
Is it meant to be unsewn?
Yeah, so a lot of my dress slack come with the back pockets
sewn. Yeah.
But there is a functional pocket inside.
Yeah.
And then I rip that stitching out with my fingers.
Yes.
And then I poke around in my butthole.
I've always
like you're doing.
I've always been upset about these pants that they don't have pockets, and now they do.
Oh, great. So you just solved a big...
I did.
How distracted were you with your pocket exploration? Because we were talking and I kept looking down. You were like digging and digging and you were really concentrating.
I could do both.
You can do both.
I did both. So listen, it was interesting for me because I feel like I know you so well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she came in. She just represents a portion of your life that I don't know and feels weird.
Mm.
It just reminds me that I don't know you at all.
Did you feel like you were time traveling?
Never met you before.
Oh, boy.
That's how I feel.
Did you feel like you were time traveling back to when I was dating her and observing us dating or something?
Well, I mean, a tiny bit. Like, oh, this is how they communicate.
Oh, sure.
Communicated because this is how they communicate now. And you guys do have a flirty energy. So I felt like, oh, they probably had a really flirty, fun
Playful.
time. But also, it's just like the stories and all these things. And I feel so out of the loop on all of that stuff.
It all happened in another chapter you never read.
Another entire chapter that I had nothing to do with.
We got to get someone in here that I partied with. If you really want to see the other chapter of my life, we need to get someone in here who really...
Yeah, I mean, I love learning about your life and I love hearing stories and stuff like that. It makes me feel like I don't know you as well as I thought or something. or something like that. Or I'll never know you in those ways, which is fine, but yeah, just weird.
Well, I'm now trying to imagine being you, okay? So you have a guest that comes in that you dated when you were 27.
Or not even dated. Like, even sometimes with Aaron, I feel that.
Oh.
It's just like these people
That I've had a whole life with?
Yeah. It's cool and weird.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, do you think that there are different stages that are more authentic or less authentic?
Authentic, no.
Okay. Because, yes, in the case where, yeah, you're around me and Aaron and we're telling stories about fucking trashing a house and doing, I bet it's like, wow, that's not the person I met 6 years ago. And it's not.
Right.
But I am being authentic in every moment I'm alive, and it evolves.
Yeah, I don't question that.
Yeah.
It's just also interesting.
It is.
Okay, so she said, we were talking about ASMR, and she said that it stimulates the pleasure center of our brain, and any kind of tone or harmony hits that pleasure center. So ASMR, autonomous sensory meridian response is what it stands for. There was some study on it, and he said that so your brain sort of gets tricked in a way when you're watching it, that somebody's helping you. Your brain interprets that as this person is teaching me something, is helping me, so you get relaxed and you get focused. And then your brain is getting into a super relaxed state, probably driven by the neurohormone oxytocin. So then that's why you can feel like sort of euphoric then. But for some people, watching ASMR videos creates a feeling of raised alertness.
Ooh.
That's because the brain is releasing increased levels of norepinephrine, adrenaline, essentially. This is something your brain releases when you feel threatened, because this is a stranger in the video pretending to be your friend, so you shouldn't be relaxed because you don't even know this person. Why are they acting like they know you? So
Isn't Nora Ephron a director?
Yeah, sure.
Every time you say Nora Ephron.
Epinephrine.
Yeah, it sounds like Nora Ephron.
It does.
Yeah.
So then I was thinking about this, and I was like, wow, yeah, there are just two ways it can go, obviously, which is why some people love it, some people don't.
Yeah, and radically different.
Yes, and I was thinking I bet there's some sort of correlation between your number of aces and if you like ASMR or not. Because I bet if you don't have any, you're more likely to like it.
I bet you're right. I like that theory.
Yeah.
Because I, in general, do not like receiving instruction.
Yeah.
It just takes me right to stepdadville.
Yeah. So I wonder if you're watching those videos, if that's how you would perceive it, as like they're pretending to
like
know you in a
hairbrush.
way. They're pretending to be intimate with you.
Yeah.
And so if you're a person that feels like people could take advantage of you, which you do often feel.
I do.
Then I think you'd be a little bit more on the alert scale than on the calm scale during those things. It's interesting. I don't know. So you said Malcolm Gladwell's new book is about how fallible memory is and how it works and how we're bad at memorizing what happened. The book is on strangers and the dangerous assumptions we make about them. Something is very wrong with the tools and strategies we use to make sense of people we don't know. And because we don't know how to talk to strangers, we are inviting conflict and misunderstanding in ways that have a profound effect on our lives and our world.
I got to order that. That's going to be my return to hard book. I do think I retain a lot more when I read as opposed to listen.
Yeah.
And I always like to retain those. 80% of what I say is from a Malcolm Gladwell book.
I know. But it's not about fallible memory.
I bet there's a chapter in there. I saw him on a talk show promoting the book, and he was going into this diatribe about memory, giving all these examples of people's bad memory.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's a section of it. So she told the story about Valentino's house. He was telling some old story about how there was a red rose in that garden and that was bad, and how like you're not supposed to have red roses in real gardens. But then I couldn't find any like myth about that or any
Italian
lore of gardens that like you shouldn't have a red rose or anything.
Maybe it was his own personal opinion.
It might be. There's some mythology around red roses in general.
Red roses. Send Monica right over.
That's Red Rover.
Oh.
But there is roses are red, violets are blue, Sugar is sweet, so are you. Or bad ones. Bad versions of roses are red, violets are blue.
Yeah. I made a toot and it smells like poo.
Oh, yeah. But there's like mythologies, like in ancient Greek, Venus's son Cupid was stung by a bee and he accidentally shot arrows into a rose garden. And when Venus walked through the garden, it pricked her foot on the thorns. Droplets of blood turned the roses red.
Oh.
So there's all these like blood legends.
Sure.
So maybe he doesn't like blood.
Well, I do imagine back in the olden days when you didn't have like all the pigments at your disposal and paint and all that.
Yeah.
You probably didn't see red that much other than like in the wild, you don't see a ton of red.
You don't.
It's a unique offering.
It is. Oh, well, there is something that you aren't supposed to have on the rose bush.
Mm-hmm.
If the leaves turn red, if there's like a red leaf, that's bad.
That's bad news.
It's really bad news.
I mean,
it's
there's a
bad
disease?
omen.
Oh, just an omen.
There's a fatal infection.
Okay.
So, it just means that plant is gone.
Berserk.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway.
So all you horticulturists out there, keep an eye on the petals of your rose bushes.
The foliage.
The foliage.
Foliage.
The flora.
So you said there was a study at Johns Hopkins. They would treat children that were going through developmental issues, and then they said, hey, let's treat the parents at the same time. And then, no, we'll just treat the parents. And then that went up tenfold.
I don't know that tenfold's the right.
I didn't find that study. There is a study at Yale, experimental program called SPACE, Supportive Parenting for Anxious Childhood Emotions, SPACE, which is a parent-based treatment that is basically for child anxiety.
But only treating the parent.
Yeah, but it's treating the parents and like basically educating them on how to deal with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
But not sending the kid into therapy.
Right.
So maybe that's what you meant.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I didn't find
sounds
Johns
the same.
Hopkins one. And I didn't find tenfold.
Oh, bummer.
That's all.
That was all the fact?
Yeah.
The lack of facts?
Oh, you got a surgery. You didn't tell people.
Oh, my lip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a cyst taken out of my lip 36 hours ago.
Yeah.
And I have some stitchies in my mouth.
Yeah.
Four stitchies. I think I've eaten one of them out already.
Ew, you did.
Well, I can't stop biting the stray pieces of the
string.
stitch. Yeah.
And then
It's
you
hard
swallow
not to.
in
Do you
it?
think you? No, I spit out the little piece of stitch.
Oh, you do?
Do you think you would gnaw on yours?
Definitely.
It's almost impossible
I
not
kind
to.
of, yeah.
And the fun thing about this cyst is it's the second one I've had taken out.
Yes.
Had one taken out 6 years ago. And our good friend Ryan Hansen also has had two.
Yeah.
And we both have gone to the same guy to get it taken out.
I know.
And we both have photographs of our cyst that the poor doctor had to take with us holding it with tweezers.
Yeah. I've never heard of anyone else in the world who's had this.
And yet you have two friends who've had four of them combined.
That's right. And I bite my lip all the time in the exact same spot.
And you never get a huge...
I never have to
ball
get it
in there.
removed.
It's like a marble inside your
So
lip.
weird. But you felt like it got a lot smaller by the time you went into your surgery.
100%. I was saying to Monica, we had sushi the day of, and I said, you know when you have a real bad flu or cold, and you keep putting off going to the doctor, and then you finally make an appointment, and then on your way there, you start feeling perfect, and then you're in the waiting room, and you feel healthier than you've ever felt, and then you go in there, and you're like, should I tell them my symptoms from yesterday?
Yeah.
I'm always in that position. First of all,
Yeah.
well, not always. I barely go to the doctor, but when I do, it's generally the thing clears up.
I know.
So sure enough, yesterday I started thinking, this thing's too small to get pulled out. It's gotten smaller.
Yeah.
But mind you, over the last 3.5 months that I've had it, it's gotten smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger. It kind of
Sure.
fluctuates.
Sure.
So I went in anyways, and it was a good sight. When he took it out,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was worth it.
And in fact, when he felt it, he goes, you want to take this one out? And I was like, oh, it's not big enough for him to take out. And then when he got it out, he goes, oh, yeah, it's bigger than I thought it was.
Oh, good.
So I felt relieved.
So you also felt like, oh, no.
Yeah, but I was really on the fence. Like, should I stand up and leave? But the last thing I want to do is end up in 2 months. It's even bigger.
Yes.
And I can't find a fucking 2 hours free to get it done.
Yes, it worked out. Oh, and I wanted to tell people the Bless This Mess Halloween episode aired, and that was the one where your eye was popped out when we were recording a fact check that day, and we were talking about your eye.
Grody eye that they put on during the fact check.
Yes.
And they could see it if they'd like.
Yeah.
I guess on Hulu. We were really laughing.
We were. It's a good show.
There was a lot of funnies. And I told Lake that you liked when she said, "Who's there?"
I did like that.
Yeah, that got a laugh out of you.
Big time.
I reported all the laughs to
Oh,
everyone.
good.
Yeah, I told Lennon when you laughed.
Oh, I laughed at her the whole time.
Yeah, she's so funny. Another advertisement for Lennon. Oh my God, we were in the we were eating. Yesterday's scene was eating Christmas dinner together.
Oh,
so it was like a huge dinner table scene with like, I don't know, 10 of us.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I know sometimes it's hard to eat a lot in these scenes because you have to eat for like 2 hours as they set up all these different camera angles. And I just wanted to whet your appetite. And then I slid my phone over and it was the picture of the 2 hairs and the butt rain on it.
Oh, man.
What a good photo.
Yeah, good photo.
Look, I've seen a unicorn in the wild.
It's posted, everyone, if you want to see it.
Yeah, there's a safety picture, as we said, then a warning card.
Yep.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I love you.
Love you.
And I hope you feel a part of the best part of my life.
I feel a part of your life. I do.
This is the best part of my life.
I mean, I wish I could go back in time and watch your whole life and be there.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm happy that
I want to go to your cheer meets and scream when you win. I would probably be going the most berserk in that audience when you won the state championship.
Oh, you should see the video of my dad.
Oh, what was he doing?
It was really embarrassing at the time, and now it makes me really feel warm when I think about that. But he was so excited, jumping up and down, and
is he laughing
definitely the most
uncontrollably?
animated I've ever seen him. He was
animated.
It was frantic. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I. Well, not only would I want to go to see your flying act, but I'd want to look immediately at Ashok when you guys won, so I could see his.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
And there's a tape of it.
Yeah, there was.
Let's find that over Christmas, okay?
I'll try.
Please?
I'll try.
Okay. I'm asking for a Christmas commitment here.
Okay.
Okay. I love you.
Bye, I love you.